More and more parents turn to home education. The motivation for choosing this option varies, but frequently we hear of and see parents choosing to home educate not because they have always wanted to or are convinced of the philosophy behind home education, but because they feel that school is no longer a safe environment, or because their child was not placed in a school. These parents have many questions, and starting to home educate can seem like a daunting task. To answer some of the questions, I've invited Wendy Young to the lounge. Wendy is a home education veteran with 25 years' experience, having successfully educated 4 children, the youngest of whom has recently received his school leaving certificate. She is co-author of the much-loved home education curriculum called Footprints on Our Land. Wendy, in a nutshell, what are the benefits and philosophy of home education?
Effectively, everybody is entitled to an education. In whatever, and from a parent's perspective, how they see fit for their child. Obviously, a child is a minor, depending on the age, they don't really know what they need in terms of education. Therefore, the Schools Act allows for any child to receive education in the way that the parent or guardian see fit. So it allows parents a wide range of philosophical differences, on the spectrum from unschooling all the way through to something that we tend to call in the homeschooling community school at home, which is basically using a school curriculum in the home. That kind of lays the foundation for what you would like to do as a parent. You have the freedom, you have the right to educate your children in any way that you see fit in the home. Your perspective would determine what education method or philosophy you would choose. If you are looking at homeschooling or home education as a parental tool, you would perhaps choose one type of philosophy. If you were looking at it to receive or for your children to get high academic standards, you would look at it from another perspective. Perhaps go for something that is much more academic in nature. So again, you've got a wide variety and a spectrum to choose from. I think looking back on our 20-odd years, 25 years of homeschooling, the greatest benefit for me is helping to create an environment where our children can become thinkers. They can question things, and they know how to work really, really hard to get to their goals. And those, you don't necessarily go into homeschooling saying, well, that's the benefit that I want, that's what I want to achieve. But by the nature of home education, it allows your children to actually stand up and question what is going on around them, connect themselves with knowledge, with education, and become lifelong learners. Yeah, that's about it for me.
If parents choose not to follow a CAPS-aligned curriculum, can their child obtain a matric qualification and perhaps continue with tertiary studies?
Oh, absolutely. There's a variety of options that they can follow. Again, I believe that home education should be tailor-made to the child and the child's need, and it's not that we do that up until high school and then all of a sudden have a wobbly and do a one-size-fits-all. So I think that it's great that there's different options out there. What I normally tell parents when I'm consulting with them is that don't worry about testing and exams until about grade 10. Work on your children's character so that by the time they get to grade 10, they are able to embrace whether it is going to be a highly academic program like Cambridge, whether they're going to do IEB, Independent Examinations Board, whether they're going to go and do the GED or even the GED and the SATs. Those are the most common ones that parents choose. And each of them are for a different purpose. Would you like me to go into what they are? Would that be helpful?
Yes, please.
So Cambridge, the way I see Cambridge is that it's for children who are varsity, are wanting to go to varsity. That is their purpose and what they want to do with their lives, particularly in the maths, science, engineering fields. Cambridge prepares children to cope well with the academic rigors of your first year environment. But it is also the easiest and most direct route into any of the faculties of varsity. The GED, just so that you know, I had 2 children do Cambridge and I had 2 children do the GED. So I'm not biased either way. I just think it's part of tailor-making their high school years. The 2 children in our home that did the GED were focused much more on arts, and they didn't need to get a matric with exemption. They qualified with an NQF4, which is what the GED gives, and they went to private colleges. And a lot of private colleges, particularly in the art sphere, are quite happy with GED. So for me, the grade 10, 11 and 12, where in a school environment, children are doing 9 and 7 subjects, of which they're probably only going to be using 4 at a varsity level, are quite irrelevant and time wasters. Whereas in a home environment, you can hone your children's expertise, get their weaker areas up to admission standard, and you can basically funnel them into whatever the need is that they have for their tertiary education. So that's a long answer to the question. Yes, you definitely can get a matric certificate. You do have to convert them, which is a process which is quite painless, from being an international equivalent to a local exemption.
Another frequently asked question is, if I don't do tests and assessments, how will I know that my child is learning and progressing?
It's also a very common question. I get asked that often when I'm at homeschool expos, and I think I'd just like to unbundle it a little bit and then answer the question directly. And I don't mean to be offensive when I say this, but the reason why schools test is because parents are not connected to the academic process that the children have. So parents are paying out 5,000 to 7,000 Rand a month to a school so that their children can get a certain volume of knowledge. To prove that they've been given this volume of knowledge, that they have to get a receipt for their investment in their child. And that receipt comes in the form of a test that says your child has achieved this quantity at this sort of rate, and we've done our job for you. We've put your money to work. That's quite a blunt way of approaching it, but and I understand it from a teacher's perspective as well. When you've got 35 children in the class, you have to standardize the education for the majority of the kids in that class. So the side point is obviously the kids that are a bit slower, the kids that are more academic, both of them out of the picture. But the teacher needs to know where her students are. So that is what testing does. So if we understand that and now look at, do we need testing in a home environment? There are some curriculum providers that would say, yes, you do. But I tend to believe that we as moms who are invested in our children and who are invested in the process of homeschooling or home education, we are working closely with our kids. We know what they know, we know what they don't know, we know what they're struggling with, we know what they're excelling in. And we are able to then manipulate the environment around our children so that we can help them where they are struggling or provide additional information where they are excelling. But we also use different ways of testing knowledge. That is the simplest thing is discussion around the dining room table. Watching our children do their answers in their textbooks. Often in the younger years, we always advise that parents do a lot of dictation, so the children can tell back what they're learning and the parents can write it up, and the children get older, that comes out in the form of essays. So while there is not standardized testing, you certainly will know whether your children know their work and have covered what is needed to be covered in a day.
Another frequently asked question, which I've reworded slightly, is, if I remove my child from school, won't she be lonely?
It's a complicated thing because I actually asked my children were they ever lonely, and obviously they were at home all the way through, never saw the inside of the school. And there were certain seasons where they were lonely, particularly in the sort of the mid to late high school years. But it wasn't that gut-wrenching, I'm all alone in the world. It's just that everybody was really busy and focused on their education and their sports and, like in any school environment even, or even in a social environment, kids found their own little niche of people. But in general, no, I don't think so. I think the most important thing to acknowledge is that our kids aren't going to school for socialization purposes and to be kept busy. They are going for an education. So if you kind of reframe the thinking, no, and if you as a family have a vibrant life at home, if you as a mom seek out those support groups and the sport and the arts and the crafts and whatever it is, there's no reason that your child should complain of loneliness.
How should one approach the transitioning from school to home education? Won't my child be lazy and want to read or play all day instead of doing her lessons? And how do I suddenly become my child's teacher?
I'm going to start with the last question first, because I think I remember, good 15 years ago, once I was interviewed for a magazine article, and the article's title was Playing Mom and Teacher, and I took great offense to that because I didn't feel like I was playing it either, and I also didn't like the separation of the roles. I think that the same way that we taught our children to talk when they were little ones and help them to walk, holding little fingers and helping them take their first steps, it's a natural progression for us as moms to just pick up the next thing, whether it is learning how to read or taking them on an outing and learning together about what birds they're seeing or what the geographical environment is like, or whatever. I just think it's a natural progression. And moms are great teachers, whether you're standing in the kitchen and you're baking a cake or whether you're doing an experiment, what's really the difference? I think that the education monster that is out there has taught us moms to think that we aren't good enough, that we have to go and get a degree to enable us to teach our children. So I just think it's a natural progression. So that answers that question. Then you said, will the child become lazy and want to read or play all day? Well, I don't really have a problem with the child reading and playing all day. Obviously, that's age dependent. But laziness would be a parenting issue, not so much a homeschooling issue. I think you'd agree with me on that one, hey, Mel?
Mm-hmm.
And if the child is lazy, and then the parent needs to step in and give them a productive list of things that they can do each day. I don't think so. The transition from taking the children out of school, there's the terminology that gets thrown around, deschooling, which basically means to give your children a time period where they can get rid of the school system. Well, it's a good term to have. It makes parents question what they're going to do in the first couple of months. But at the same time, I think that I still face school mentality in myself. So I went through a school system. I homeschooled my children for 25 years. And yet every now and again, I'll still get that, maybe I'm not, maybe I need to do it this way or whatever. And that takes time to work itself out, even after 25 years. So taking 3 months off, which is even what we've advised folks to do when they start homeschooling, I think is actually more about a bonding time between mom and child, or dad and child if he's homeschooling, a time to get your resources together, to do your networking that needs to be done for your social support, to find your curriculum, to train your children in how to do chores and how to help in the home. Because obviously, you know, kids are rushing off at 6 o'clock in the morning to get to school, and they're getting back and going straight into homework. They don't know the basics of making a bed, setting a table, preparing a meal. Use that kind of time to transition into homeschooling, because when you homeschool, mom's not going to now add something else. Mom is going to pull everybody in to operate as a team in the home. So that's what I think, that transition time is good, and particularly now with the changes that are coming up in the school's curriculum for next year. Kids are finishing school, I think, beginning of December, the 4th of December or something like that. Moms have got a good 6 weeks in which to breathe and get used to this, and the kids to, you know, to grasp the concept. And if 6 weeks is not long enough, we'll take another 6 weeks until you're ready. But I don't think we should have a hard and fast rule about how it should look.
One thing that I just thought of from my own experience is boredom. Because your child is going to school and it's busy, 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 and after school activities, busy, busy, busy. Now all of a sudden they have free time and they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, they don't. And I think that the great thing about boredom, I think it was actually Marty Duplessis that said it to me years ago, boredom produces creativity. So as long as we have the right environment and the right resources for the children in the home, they can take that boredom and they can actually do some amazing things. I think about my one son, who in a lull after his GED, he started to draw, and that eventually led into digital drawing, which led into animation, which led into his career in animation. And you know, and that came out of boredom. So yeah, I think it's important then, actually, while you bring that up, is to say what it doesn't look like, what the transition doesn't look like. It doesn't look like a child sitting on Xbox or PlayStation or on a screen for 3 months while mommy runs around like a crazy thing trying to get curriculum. It doesn't look like a child who won't get out of bed until 10 o'clock in the morning and is resistant to helping in the home. That's not, I wouldn't, that would bother me as a parent. I actually also made a note earlier when I was thinking, if the children have been bullied in school by teacher or by peers, or if there is a learning difficulty and that is the reason why parents are taking them out, I think that they should be given sufficient time to heal up after those, that sort of pain. So again, no hard and fast rule, but just learn to listen to your children's needs and what your needs are and go from there.
What advice can you give parents of high school age children who are now considering home education? Let's say from grade 10.
Okay, so if it's from grade 10, I would say they definitely need to be on board. If the children are not on board with the whole homeschooling thing, it's going to be quite tough for the parents. But if the children are on board, try and give them as much responsibility as possible for determining the things that I spoke about earlier. What do you want to do when you leave school? Do you think your direction is varsity? Is it college? I would even involve them in any curriculum discussion, in choosing tutors if they need them for maths and science or whatever subjects the mom doesn't feel strong enough to carry herself. And yeah, I think that's the biggest thing for me, is that the kid needs to be, or the teen needs to be personally involved and invested in it. Just otherwise it's going to be tough going. Not that it can't happen, but it will be tough going. Yeah, that would be my sort of my top note. Yeah.
Now my circumstances have changed and my child must go back to school. Can I put my child back into school?
Absolutely. And in fact, I went to look on the Pestalozzi website to see what their advice is to parents, because what I normally say is keep your maths and your languages going grade for grade, so that if the schools test, that those are in place. Your other subjects, there's such a variety of them that if you're providing your children while they are in the home, a broad liberal education, they should be fine. But keeping that maths and the languages going grade for grade is very important. When I went to look at what it said, if I can just read to you the what Pestalozzi said, is that it is actually a public school must admit learners and serve their educational requirements without unfairly discriminating in any way. The governing body of a public school may not administer any test related to the admission of a learner to a public school. Apparently, a lot of schools, that's from the Article 5 of the SA Schools Act, apparently a lot of schools do try and administer tests. And if the parents were insistent that they don't, they do have the legal case over there. The local school to your home, if they are not full, has to give you a place. The other thing that I've also seen with kids who have gone back into school is that if the child wants to go back to school, the transition is pretty easy. But if it's been parents enforcing it on the kids going back to school, perhaps the situation changes. Mom needs to go back to work, or she just doesn't feel cut out for the stress involved in homeschooling. Sometimes the transition takes a bit longer. But in general, the people that I have known personally whose kids have gone back to school for one another reason have actually out-excelled their peers. Not just in academics, but also in a social aspect. They're mature, they can handle difficult personality types, etc. So it's definitely an option.
There is lots of talk about registering with the DBE. What should parents know in order to make an informed decision?
I think the most important thing would be first for parents to contact the Pestalozzi Trust and to speak to them about what their options are. You can find them on the web, and I'm sure you'll link to them in your show notes. So the statistic, as far as I remember, was that 98% of homeschoolers who are currently homeschooling in the country feel that it is against their constitutional rights to register with the Department of Education. I will send you a link that you can share with the viewers where it's discussed in depth by Leonard van Oostrom, who's now passed away, but he was the man on the wall for us, and he was very, very involved in the negotiations, in setting up the legal side of home education in the country, and for that we will always be grateful. The fact is that the Constitution allows for parents to home educate their children. So, and it also states that in the way that they see fit. That's my paraphrase. So the problem with Department of Education is that they would like to be able to enforce a CAPS education on our children in the home, which then blurs the lines of what is your parental rights, what is the child's right to be educated in the way that they see fit, and where government involvement should actually be. So my advice would be to contact the Pestalozzi Trust, speak through the options with them, and do what you believe to be the right thing is for your home and your family.
Wendy, thank you very much. I appreciate you sharing your tips with us.
Absolutely, glad to be here.